Well, indeed, thank you for staying with us here on KTN Business today. My name is Peter Okabon. This second part of the show, we want to talk about matters brewing and innovation. Now, of course, the brewing industry in Kenya, the alcoholic beverage industry rather, has been very competitive in the recent past. We've seen a whole range of new products that have come into the market to be able to carve a niche and, of course, cater to the needs of an upwardly mobile younger clientele here in Kenya. Well, to speak into that conversation and, of course, give us insights on what exactly his organization has been doing in this space, we have at our city center studios, Fred Otieno, Head of Innovation at Kenya Breweries Limited. Indeed, karibu sana, Mr. Otieno.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Now, first off, of course, for most Kenyans, when you say alcoholic beverage, what comes into their head is the various beers. We, of course, have things like Tusker, we have White Cup and that sort of thing. But recently, we have started to discover that this thing is much, much wider. We've seen the influx of whiskey brands. We've seen an upsurge of things like rum and that sort of thing. Talk to us about what exactly is happening in this field.
Basically, the market continues evolving. And as it keeps evolving, it is creating new opportunities for consumers. Mm-hmm. So we are seeing a market that is continuously shifting and shifting towards the trends that consumers are showing us to go, basically. Yes. So you'll see that there's been a very accelerated rate of innovation in the recent past. Mm-hmm. Both within beer and also within spirits. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Otieno, I'd urge you to look straight into the camera so we can continue to speak. Now, for most young Kenyans, the fact of the matter is that they grew up with a lot of the older generation consuming one end of that spectrum, mostly the beers and that sort of thing. But the tastes have changed, palates have changed, businesses are now changing too much, as you're saying. What exactly are you doing as an organization to be able to, well, be in this space?
So we continuously get feedback from our consumers and are always doing research in terms of trends and what consumer profiles that are changing. And in that space, then, we're able to see what are the things that consumers desire into their repertoires right now. So we are able to capture the changes in tastes and preferences, as well as the new things that consumers are seeing that are shaping their aspirations based on what's happening in other parts of the world. So our young consumer nowadays is able to get their influences shaped not only by what's happening within the local market, but also other markets globally.
So then on that note, maybe you can speak into what exactly has your research said about the Kenyan market and where exactly it is going, especially in view of the fact that we've seen a real diversification of, well, choices for people, and it's a sort of a democratization of the sector.
Yes. So we have seen consumers desiring differentiated beer tastes. So you'll see a continued growth in the beer segment that looks at new flavors and new tastes into their current beer offering. A bit in terms of the upper end, also a growth in what we call craft, which is specialty beers that are created with a lot of passion by very experienced people. Secondly, you'll also see a shift in terms of spirits with flavors. So you've seen the market exploding with new flavors, some of which are from our stable. And we are always expanding the portfolio to make sure that then it caters for all sorts of consumer profiles, both in the upper end and also towards the lower end as well.
In also the fact that there has been, well, a trend, so to say, especially among the younger and upwardly mobile aspirational consumers, as you say, to start to try more exotic drinks, things like, well, the rums that we've seen in the market. Talk to us about why this is happening now, and of course, what the choices have been.
So we've recently launched Captain Morgan Gold, and it's one of those brands that is a global brand and people are aware of it.
Yes.
However, it has always been a little bit inaccessible from a pricing perspective. And what we've done is made sure that we bring it in and use our local expertise to produce it locally, to allow the consumer, especially the young adult consumer, to afford it at the right price.
Yes.
So this is a case where we've looked at a global brand that has global credentials and a world-class liquid delivered in the right way and at an appropriate price point for our consumer today. So it's basically being able to leverage our strength of the business globally and using our local expertise to deliver that which is right for the Kenyan consumer.
Well, the reports would have tended to indicate that the Kenyan palate tends to trend towards sweeter drinks. If you were to do a poll of 10 ladies and ask them, what would you like to drink? They say red, sweet wine. So even with these other brands, I think we're tending to start to see, well, a movement of the brands towards sweetness. Is that the case in this sector as well?
So I would say there's a dynamism in terms of taste profiles, yes. I would say there's growth in terms of sweeter palate. And truly, younger adults are probably grown up in environments that have more sweeter liquids or sweeter foods being offered to them. And that actually affects the way their palate perceives things. But that said, there's also shifts in areas where people do not desire sweetness. So you'll see a proliferation of beverages that not only focus on things that are sweet, but also people who don't want sweetness. And that probably creates a dichotomy or the environment within which innovation can really thrive, because you have different consumer profiles shifting. And additional to that, I would say that there's also something around what people want to taste or drink or eat within different occasions. There are certain opportunities where somebody wants to be in a more indulgent occasion, and therefore they might prefer something that's more indulgent in terms of the taste flavor. So you'd see that all these are diversities that we have to be really attuned to as innovators to make sure that we then provide the right kind of product for the consumer at the right time.
Well, of course, research also indicated at one point that in the Kenyan market we had a sort of, as you say, dichotomy, where on one end we had consumers who want something really strong in terms of alcohol content, while at the other end, most of them tend not to be really matured alcohol consumers. So in terms of spirits and that sort of thing, they don't want really strong flavors and they need something subtle that will make them enjoy what they're drinking. What has the innovation in this area led to production of?
So we see, I would say, a growth in some of the stronger alcoholic beverages,
yes,
both in beer as well as cocktails or mixed drinks. And this is also driven by the fact that consumers want something slightly stronger and better value for their spend. But at the same time, we are able to also offer products that are of a much lower in terms of alcoholic content, but at the end of the day, delivers the right experience. So consumers necessarily don't look at content as a key driver, but the experience that we're able to give to them. And that, for me, is the opportunity to deliver some really exciting innovations that deliver the right kind of taste and a world-class experience that all consumers in Kenya are looking for.
Finally, talk to us about the recently launched product itself, Captain Morgan Gold. What exactly goes into making this beverage? What consumers can expect in the near future? And of course, what this whole market holds for this sort of thing going forward?
Good. So Captain Morgan Gold recently launched in Kenya. It is a delicious liquid, specially made or created to go excellently well with cola. As a mixed drink, and it is based out of a brand, Captain Morgan, which is renowned globally for being a fun brand and exciting brand for consumers. So it's targeted towards millennials. It has the right taste profile in terms of liquid. It's based out of a rum with delicious notes of vanilla, and we know that consumers will find it amazing, as we had seen within our research. So you're going to see a lot of this kind of products targeting, the right type of consumer profile in the future. At the moment with Captain Morgan, we are launching it with a big marketing push. There's activities that are bringing Captain to Kenya. We had the pleasure of hosting the global Captain Morgan ambassador last week as we did the launches. And you'll see a lot of all that, that Captain Morgan embodies through our marketing activities in the coming months.
Indeed, thank you very much, sir, for taking the time to talk with us. That, of course, is Fred Otieno. He is the head of innovation at Kenya Breweries Limited. Of course, one of the larger companies in the region when it comes to alcoholic beverages, and of course, market leader in that segment. And well, talking to us about a recently launched beverage and what exactly the company is doing in terms of innovation so that they can continue to cater for local and indeed coming consumption that continues to come into the market. Again, thank you very much. Now, the Chartered Institute of Marketing today held its end-of-year power breakfast themed marketing transformation during an economic downturn. The event was aimed at developing strategies for businesses that are trying to survive the recent slump in the economy and the projected tough economic times ahead. Angela Mwirigi, Director of Marketing and Communication at the KCB Group, said that even in an economic downturn, demand needs to be created. Managing Director of Enterprise Division for Telcom Kenya, Chris Senanu, explained at the same event that the only way to remain vigilant in the skewed market is to position the company where growth is going to be.
Now, that said, it is true, it is easiest to cut with you. But what you need to do is take a scalpel rather than a hammer. Now, no one ever comes along and cuts everything unless you help them do that.
If you see on our retail brand, which is the mobile brand, our focus is the youth and the progressive market. And it's simply because I can say with confidence, my daughter doesn't understand credit, or she doesn't know what a voice call is. She knows she has WhatsApp, and when she's looking to call daddy, she presses daddy's picture on WhatsApp and it calls.
While small kiosk owners in Nairobi are said to benefit from a digital ordering system dubbed koinect that allows them to order and pay for products via SMS, orders submitted via feature phone helps create a digital record for the owners of the kiosks to get access to microloans to stock inventory and then grow their businesses. Koinect currently is being piloted with over 1,000 micro businesses in 3 of Nairobi's informal settlements, that is Kibera, Kawangore, and Kariobangi. Koinect is one of several broad-based collaborations that Mastercard has launched with public and private sector entities to bring the benefits of security of electronic payments to Africa and right around the globe. After the initial pilot, Mastercard will embed the most successful services and features of the Koinect solutions into something that is designed for scale in partnerships with global fast-moving consumer goods companies in emerging markets. Well, we have, of course, been focusing on the tourism sector in a big way in recent days here in, well, on KTN Business Today. And today is no different. Today, we, of course, want to look at what exactly is happening in the field of diversification in order to create resilience in the tourism industry right across the country, and in particular in Diani in Kwale County. Well, I sat down to an interview with one of the directors of the Zuri Group, which is a global conglomerate in the hospitality sector. This is what he had to say.
We're here at the Diani Reef Beach Resort, and spare with me is Bobby Kamani. He is one of the directors of the Zuri Group, which is the owner of these and other establishments here in the Kenya hospitality industry. And we just want to sort of get an update on what exactly has been the pulse for the hospitality industry, especially in the run-up to the swearing in of the president and the previous election period. So talk to us, Bobby, what exactly has the last sort of 6 months been like?
Okay, well, thanks for having me today. I think it's been a very difficult and very challenging year for Kenya.
Yes.
And I have told others, and I'll tell you the same thing, that Kenya as a country and the Kenyans, we're a very resilient people.
Yes.
Now, what I feel is that the hospitality industry, it's the same thing.
Yes.
We've had our challenges, we've had our difficulties, but we've always gotten up. And I think that's the same case for everyone in the country as well.
Yes.
It was difficult, but I wouldn't say that all of 2017 was difficult. What surprised me, for example, was after the elections,
yes,
I was expecting that occupancies would have dropped. In actual fact, we actually had business from October onwards. The last quarter of this year, 2017, has actually been an extremely, extremely good time for us.
Yes.
Positive surprise.
Wow.
We weren't expecting it.
Interesting that we should be saying that, because for the rest of the country, a bit of hiccup economically here and there.
Yeah.
And of course, this is now the tourism high season. What do you expect going forward?
So I think 2018 is going to be a great year for tourism, and I think the last 3 months of 2017 are giving us a teaser of what 2018 is going to be like. Yes. We are very excited. We can only go up from here.
Yes. Yeah. Talk to us about the experience itself. Maybe this is what has contributed to this resilience that we're talking about, especially the fact that, before it used to be just a beach holiday. You'd come here, lie on the beach, a bit of swimming and that sort of thing. There's now a bit of innovation around the experience, animations and things like that. Talk to us about that.
So nowadays, holidays are not just holidays.
Yes.
It's about experiences. It's about making memories, creating memories. And so Diani Reef, for example, is now looking at focusing on making memories. Yes. At our holiday, that is all-encompassing for a family. We want to make sure that every family member has something that they are happy with whilst they're staying at Diani Reef, and something that's always going to bring them back. So it's more experiential than anything, so you are very right there.
Yes. And then there's the trend towards a more inclusive sort of thing that brings in families, creates a child-friendly experience and that sort of thing. Talk to us about that.
Well, I think every resort has got its focus, and our focus is families. We do extremely well with families, and I would like to tell you that our team is excellent with children. We have a fully qualified team that can take care of children of all ages. So we encourage families to come to our resort. Other resorts perhaps will have other policies, but this is our policy.
Then let's talk a bit about the marketing itself, the fact that we've for a very long time been focused on the foreign market, looking out there for business and that sort of thing. Businesses have started to look inwards within Kenya and the greater East Africa region. How is this working out for you?
Well, I would say that all the hospitality players, including ourselves, have made a big mistake in the past, and that was that we relied heavily on the international market. Yes. Lesson learned. The international market is not going to be there through the good times and the bad. The regional and the domestic market is always going to be there, and that's what's going to sustain us through a difficult period. So we learned our lesson, and that is now why we are focusing heavily on the domestic and the regional market within Kenya and across Africa.
Yes. Finally, the dispensation towards the county governments and the fact that they've started to come in a big way in terms of driving this sector, and of course the local stakeholders. What does it take for an establishment like this to start saying that you're working well with the local communities, you're working sustainably such that the environment is maintained into the future for all generations?
Well, tourism is not just tourism. A hotel is not just a hotel. With a hotel comes tourism, comes conservation, and comes community. So if you can cater to all three aspects, then I think you've got a winning story. When it comes to community, we do support local communities within Diani. We support an orphan's home here, just across the road. And we also are heavily invested in conservation. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the colobus monkeys running around. So we are part of the Colobus Monkey Trust as well, which is trying to encourage their conservation.
So finally, the thing that a lot of people usually look towards government and say government should do this or the other. It also turns out that stakeholders have to drive the innovation, the policy, and the drive towards marketing themselves. How is this working for you?
I think that the Ministry of Tourism, the Kenya Tourist Board, and the government has made huge efforts in trying to involve stakeholders into the hospitality story. And they are taking the stakeholders' opinions and basing policies around that. So I think it's a very good thing. I think they worked extremely hard. It's not easy to aggressively market a country like Kenya when it's going through a challenging time. So credit has to be given where it's due, and I think the government and the ministry have done a fantastic job.
Okay. Indeed. Thank you very much for your
time.
Thank you.
Of course, I'm being reminded that that there is not a sit-down, but rather a walk through the story. Of course, they're speaking to Bobby Kamani, who is a director of the Zurich Group, which operates hospitality and horticulture projects, not just in Kenya, but right across the world in places like India and the United Kingdom. On that note, we want to bring it to a close here on KTN Business Today. It has been a pleasure having you. Of course, the news continues here on KTN News. Up next is Mbiu in just a few minutes with the news in the Swahili language. Of course, Business Today will be back at the same time tomorrow at 3 p.m. at market close with more headlines from the world of business. Do continue to enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Peter Wakaba.